I like it. Okay. Hello. Oh, actual recording quality is very high. I just saw that pop up.
Oh, mine says higher than, I see. So,
Higher than what? That's perfect. That's a good sign. Okay. All right. Welcome
mhm,
everyone to Spirit Cafe Sessions with Nikki and
Kim.
Kim. There's a delay there. Okay. This is a very exciting episode. We are going to be talking about toxic positivity and spiritual bypassing. They're kind of the same thing, a little bit different, and they do go hand in hand 9 times out of 10. And I think that it's an appropriate episode because we are definitely in a time where toxic positivity is rampant. And so is spiritual
Oh,
bypassing, which half the time most people don't even know that they're doing it. So we're hoping, I have some notes, hoping I can clarify it for everybody. But I did want to say, look at this. My tea today is in a lovely teacup for those of you watching. I have a teacup collection, which I have to,
very.
it's at my house, so I got to go and get it. But I've decided that I'm going to start collecting teacups again. And I bought this lovely teacup, and it's just got my turmeric and ginger tea because I'm on that weird turmeric ginger tea fix still. Got zinc in there, got lemon in there. And I'm telling you, it's helping me so much. I love it. That's what I'm drinking.
Well, that is absolutely what you need to be doing at this time of the
Oh,
year with everybody getting sick.
rampant,
And there's
rampant
apparently
cold,
quite a few things
freeze.
going on.
Ugh. Influenza A in my area, everywhere. Flu A. Oh, I don't want that. I do not want that.
Yeah. The lady I go to hockey with had she
Phew.
was sick. Sorry.
Kim is
She got it
just
at work.
throwing things about today. That's her mood.
I
Okay.
am.
Okay.
I am.
What's the card of the week? We're heading into February with this episode. So what do we got to February? What are we opening up when it comes to February here? All right, we do have the 5 of Pentacles. Yikes. Actually, it kind of makes sense for this episode. So the 5 of Pentacles comes up when we are feeling a little bit rejected, ignored, ghosted, and most importantly, disconnected, whether it's from a connection we
Mm.
have with someone or whether it's ourselves. Feeling disconnected, no bueno. But it does happen. We are humans. That's life. And we have to learn how to work through these energies and try to reconnect ourselves in, a very a compassionate and loving way, right? No matter how we have to do it. So February might be starting off a little bit rough for some people. Okay, we did just at this point get through a lot of very heavy energies in the lovely cosmos. So we could be just kind of really figuring out how to reconnect with ourselves. I feel like this card came up because it's not about reconnecting with someone, but more so reconnecting about our reconnecting with ourselves because I got the 9 of Pentacles here with it. Inner work, inner self. Okay. So we might find ourselves struggling to reconnect or about to try to reconnect with ourselves, which I think is perfect for the theme of this episode. And I love when that happens, I have to say.
It actually also relates to the Sunday service I did yesterday,
Oh,
and where I discussed um, like living authentically and not kind of putting yourself aside, and what
yes.
happens when you abandon yourself, and those things like feeling disconnected, feeling tired. Feeling ill, things like that. Those are signs that you are
Yep.
not living authentically. You're allowing, yourself, you're abandoning yourself for whatever other reasons,
Hmm.
whether to, focus for other people or whatever. So, and just to live who you are authentically. So that was exactly what I talked about yesterday.
See, I like that. I like
Oh,
that.
I
You
got
see how I
coffee.
love when that happens. No there's no such thing as coincidences. All right. No such thing. You see?
No, no.
Anyway. Okay. I think we're just going to get right into it. Spiritual bypassing and toxic positivity. So, for those of you who don't know, spiritual spiritual bypassing, it was coined by a psychologist, and he was a Buddhist teacher. His name was John Wellwood, and he he coined, I should say, this term in like the 1980s. I don't remember exactly when, but it basically, the definition of spiritual bypassing is the tendency to use spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep or avoid facing unresolved emotional issues, psychological wounds, and unfinished developmental tasks, aka your traumas, right? Um, Honestly, nobody likes
Mhm.
to look at your dark side. We don't like to do it. I don't like to look at my dark side. Kim doesn't want to look at her dark side. Nobody does. Okay. Because the things that lurk under the murky water tend to be quite heavy, right, Kim? And quite tense.
Mhm.
And it doesn't
Yeah.
feel very good, but it's essential. It's essential for growth and progress, and for our own healing as human beings, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's interesting because I was listening to his podcast a while ago where they talked about empaths and sensitives, and how a lot of the times empath and
Mm.
sensitive spiritual bypass without even knowing that they do that, because what they do is they try to avoid harsh energies or negative energies. Oh no, I can't deal with that because I'm an empath. I'm too sensitive. I can't deal with that energy. It's too negative for me. It's too negative for me. And that's a form of spiritual bypass, and I never actually understood that, and I never actually saw that as a form of spiritual bypass. I think I'm an empath. Fortunately, I work in healthcare, so there is no avoidance of negative energies anywhere. I can't do that.
Nope. Oh,
But I never knew that that was seen as spiritual bypassing for empaths and sensitives. And then I started to think, had I ever done that? And I had many times found myself in a situation that was so emotionally triggering or intense. And I just removed myself out of it completely, which was fine. And please do that. It's very, good for you to do that. If something is emotionally triggering you and you can't handle it, you're going to have anxiety or whatever, remove yourself. But remove yourself and figure out why that was an emotionally upsetting situation. What happens most times is that empaths and sensitives will remove themselves, as they should, but there's never any work done to figure out where was that trigger. Why did that trigger? Why did I feel that? And then you keep going into those situations over and over again, and removing yourself without actually dealing with the core problem. And I never saw that as a form of spiritual bypassing until I heard that in a podcast. So I thought that was super, super interesting when I read that. But another thing that I found out is that realize that with spiritual bypassing, guys, um, you'll you can only spiritual bypass so much before it gets you. Not to be scary, but like Kim knows, you can only compartmentalize and you can only avoid it so much, the negative stuff, before it's going to hit you like a brick in the face, and you're going to have your dark soul of the night, and it could be quite excruciating. So that's why we wanted to talk about spiritual bypassing, toxic positivity, what it is. I have examples of it because I know that, like, for some people it can be confusing. They don't know
mm.
100% what it is, how they're witnessing it. I mean, toxic positivity is not just, going into a yoga studio and them telling you, okay, oh my God, we are so happy here. It is fantastic. There's no negative energy. We're all breathing. We're all connecting. There's no room for any negative anything. But it's not just that, although that is an example, but it's not just that, right? There's so many different things that we do on a daily basis that can be seen as spiritual and emotionally bypassing, and we don't even know, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I do have
No,
some.
it's
Go ahead.
no, I just like it's you learn all the time. So don't ever feel like, you're stupid or whatever narrative you want to put in your head because you're going through something.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one. Is the self judgment that we have on ourselves. I'm not sick. It's like this weird. Ugh, anyway. So I do have some examples of spiritual bypassing, toxic positivity, although I'm sure we all know what toxic positivity is these days. But I wanted to find some more examples of what spiritual bypassing can be, because while I know what it is, I don't really have a definition in my head. I can just see a situation, be like, "Whoa, that person's, oh, I don't want to be in the." That's spiritual bypassing right there. What are they doing, right? So I did get some examples, and the biggest thing, and I love this, is because we just did the episode on it, but it's detachment. Okay, when we move so much into detachment, disassociation, that we tell ourselves and tell everyone around us, I'm attached to nothing. I am so detached from this result, this person. I don't need food. I don't need shelter. I can live in I can do, I don't need anything. I don't need, ooh, I don't need anything. I am great. Um, that's a lot of denial. And I know people will
Mhm.
argue with me on that, but it is a lot of denial, because number one, it is very impossible to detach 100% from anything and everything. It's very impossible. We did talk about this in previous episodes. And when we try to tell ourselves that we're detached, and we try to put that notion forward that we don't care and we're so great and it doesn't matter and I don't care what happens, a lot of the times it's denial, right? Because the real deal with life is not to overvalue the objects of your life, and you have and to understand their place. We're humans, we're humans, we need human connection. Human connection is vital for us. And I know Kim agrees with me. We need to feel connected to moments, to goals, to people, to ourselves. So when we're claiming that we're detached from all these things, we're not living the human experience. And that is spiritual bypassing. Because if you're not living the human experience, you're not letting yourself experience the negative emotions, the traumas that you have to work through for growth, for for calmness, for all that kind of stuff. And I read this great quote that said, "Denial of this truth easily leads to avoidance and repression of fundamental and spiritual needs," which I 100% agree with, right? We can't be detached from everything in our lives. Those people who claim that they are, half the time I don't believe them. I don't believe them at all.
Yeah.
But
Well, and there's also the thing with these people who will say, um, have had a tough childhood, have had, all these things, have had bad relationships and stuff. And then they get to a point where, they be a beautiful person, but they say, I don't need anybody. I don't need
yeah,
anything. And they'll get a connection. And as soon as they start to feel a little challenged because it's different to them, because maybe
yeah,
somebody makes them feel like things that they haven't felt, and then they just, I don't need anybody, and then they cut them all off.
that's it.
And there's just something that there's this, I'm not sure if I've ever said it here, as a podcast, but I always like to bring up the analogy, um, that it's like, why do, like foster kids or whatever, people who've had that kind of a background, why do they, have such a hard time, being loved or allowing themselves to be loved?
Right, right.
And they liken it to going outside. Say you go outside and it's cold and you kind of freeze your feet and
Okay,
you're
yeah.
frozen. And then you run yourself like a nice bath and you get in and it stings,
Oof. Yeah,
right? It's not because it's burning you, it's because you're not used to it. So
that's
that
right.
is, you need to realize that, things like this are going to hurt for at first, just
Mhm,
because you don't know and you're
mhm.
not, something you're used to feeling. But, once you sit in that bath for a little bit, it feels really nice,
Yeah. Yeah. No, that I actually like that
right?
analogy. I think it worked really well. That worked really well with this because it does sting. It stings and we want to avoid the
Mhm.
stinginess, so we spiritual bypass. We tell ourselves over and over we're detached. We don't care. We're detached. We don't care. We don't touch. We don't care. And that's
Mhm.
detrimental. It's 100% detrimental. Another example, I mean, we just talked about it, is, good vibes only. Ugh. Honestly, yikes. Yikes, 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 yikes. Yeah. Oh Lord, I don't like toxic positivity. It's probably at the top of my list of things that really really annoy me, but because it's really compartmentalizing at its finest. It's honestly that's what it is. Everything is great. It could always be worse. no negative energy here. We got to be positive. This is no, in this space we only love. In this space we only connect with light. We love and light. We no, no, no. And there's nothing wrong
Mhm.
with those spaces as long as they're done the right way. And the right way is to honor not just love and light in you, but also the darkness, because we have darkness as human beings. We do. It's yin and yang. It's black and white. That's us, right? Like that's us. Um, so the whole good vibes, only thing, it drives me crazy because it leads to suppressing emotions, epiphanies, which, everybody knows how I love my epiphanies. And it you kind of move to kind of rise above those negative emotions. Oh no, I'm not an angry person. No, I'm not an angry person. I don't feel anger. No, I don't. I don't feel anger. No, no, I don't feel them. That's not good. That's no way to live, to feel them. I don't have time for anger. I don't have time for fear. I mean, you might not have time for them, but they'll have time for you. So work through them,
Mhm.
right? Another example is,
Yep.
and this one was interesting to me because I didn't see it as a form of spiritual bypassing, but once I found it, I did a little bit more research, and it's about your belief systems, focusing on your spirituality and knowing how it's the only way to go, being self-righteous in it. Nope, this is the only way to do it. Nope, this is how you get your prayers answered.
Mhm.
No, this is how you meditate. Nope, this is how you speak to God. Nope, this is how you reach out to your spirit guides. Nope, nope, nope. You have to commit 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to this practice all the time. You can't make any mistakes. You have to follow the rules. You've got to be rigid. You got to be in that box, as Kim says. Meditation and your prayer is always positive. Whoa.
Yeah. No.
And is that
See, and
true?
that's where yeah, with me, if you worked with me, like for circle or whatever, I'll always say, you know, you can't, when we didn't just come out of the womb and running, we didn't, not every day is beautiful and sunshiny. So you're allow yourself to feel these feelings. There's nothing wrong with having disappointment. There's nothing
Oh,
wrong with doing something a little different because we're all different,
yeah.
right? So,
Mhm.
there can be people like, oh, you need to meditate. And when you meditate, you can't meditate unless you close your eyes. Well, I know people who actually have trauma that closing their eyes scares the crap out of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So how are you going to meditate and get into a calm state when you got your eyes closed and
Yeah.
and you've got your like hypervigilance going? So these aren't rigid things. Like they're so expansive. There's so many ways to do it.
Mhm.
And for someone to tell you you're doing it wrong is huge. And just
So bad.
looking at go to any spiritual community that you're looking at, which I found quite disappointing actually, is the fact that I thought, oh, okay, well, these people like they can, you live spiritually, right? Because that's how I
Mm,
am. I
right.
do, like I'm not all the time, but like, I do. And you see them, and then they're backbiting each other, and they're like
Yeah.
like, oh, she doesn't do it right. She's not good enough.
Yeah.
And that's just
That's
takes
spiritual
away from
bypassing.
everything,
That's
everything.
what that is.
Yeah. And it's absolutely unacceptable that
Mhm.
someone would put their beliefs to put you down
Yeah.
or to discount
Yeah.
how you get information, how you feel.
Yeah.
You never, ever, ever let someone do that to you.
No. No, you gotta put that boundary in place 100%, because you know what? Like, not everything is a karmic lesson. Not everything is meant to be. Not everything that you see in your reality that's going to hurt you was to teach you something. There's not that's another thing that I do disagree with, is not everything 24/7 a day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week is a lesson. Sometimes things happen,
No.
right? Like, and
Sometimes you burn your soup, like, that
yeah,
happens.
like
There's no
like
reason for
some
it.
exactly. So, and it's very interesting because when I read that and I read how beliefs can be seen as such intense spiritual bypassing because you're so rigid in them, you're not actually working through them. You're not connecting through those beliefs. You're not connecting. Most people who act like that, they don't connect. It's all surface level, right? So I thought that was an amazing example because I've seen that in the spiritual community, and I've seen that in, the mediumship community as well with their beliefs. It's like a little bit
Oh,
crazy.
yeah.
Um, anyway,
Yep.
so two more examples. Another one is when we say, I'm fine, everything is all right, I'm great, nothing is ever wrong, nothing is ever set in stone, I won't bother feeling angry. What do I got to feel angry for? It doesn't affect me, diminishing the human spirit. That's what it is. It's diminishing the human spirit. You are bypassing letting yourself feel when you are triggered and when you are angry at something. And I see it all the time. I see people get triggered for a moment and then, no, I'm fine. It's all good. I'm good. Nothing's no, 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 no. And I know that they did not process that. And I know that it triggered them for whatever reason. And I know that they needed to process it. But I see it every day, almost every day. It's such a common one. It's like wearing a mask. You know what I mean? So spiritual bypassing
Mhm.
is feeling these triggers and just pretending basically everything's okay and pretending that you know the techniques, you know the rules, you know what you have to do, you know the steps, you're doing the steps, but you're not actually feeling and you're not transmuting. That's literally what it is. It's transmuting it, right? It's learning how to be better. In another one, and I know that I might get flack for this because I am a big LOA person, but the law of assumption and the law of attraction community is full of spiritual bypassing. And I know that I might get some flack for that, but you have to hear me out with this one. Okay. I am bringing it in anyway, because I see it and I have done it, especially at the beginning of my journey, like 4 years ago now. Maybe it's five. No, it's 4 years ago. I see it and I see it now. There is this preconceived notion with, the law of attraction, being positive only attracts positive, being negative no, no. No, no, no. I've read The Secret. I know just like you guys know, that the law of attraction, its main teaching, yes, is, be positive, be happy, and all of that amazing vibration will come to you all the time until it doesn't, until the triggers hit. And then you spiral
Mhm.
and then you crash out, right? Um, I've heard manifesting only works
Yep.
if you stay 100% with a high vibration. If you don't waver, if you don't crash out, if you don't spiral. If you're crashing out, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. Okay. The core behind law of assumption is the core behind not spiritual bypassing, which is shadow work and self concept. And I will die on that hill. Okay. You will get your manifestations affirming, visualizing. But if your self concept is not here, and if your self concept is not centered and strong in your beliefs as what you are or who you are as a human being, you're not going to hold on to it. I'm going to tell you that right now. You're not going to hold on to it. Okay. As someone who has hit that peak and has gotten the stuff that they wanted and then let it slip or has held on to the stuff that they wanted, when my self concept was so high and when I had that belief and when I worked through my triggers and I sat there when, my dark souls of the night, and I sat there when I was triggered with, rejection when it came to a career, when I was triggered with rejection when it came to something else, I worked through that and it was not pretty, but I did it. And that is something that does get missed in the law of assumption community, right? Um, you have to allow yourself to be human as you're manifesting. I'm going to throw this out there right now. Knowing that you are remarkable, chosen, and safe is a big one, especially chosen and safe. But to really feel that and believe that, a lot of us have to do the work, right? You've got to do the work. And that means dealing with your shadow self, dealing with that darkness, right? It's easier to be happy and have happier thoughts
Yep.
and hold on to them when we're centered, right?
Oh, absolutely. And, again, go back to there is no reason to be disappointed in yourself or to be angry with yourself or anything if you're feeling these feelings. Like
Yeah.
this is being human. If
Yeah.
you were perfect, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't
Oh, God.
be here. You'd be in some other realm. You'd be, in spirit world or whatever. You would not be here. So
No.
you are not perfect. No one is perfect. So you cannot expect that of yourself. And you need to do it with grace and to
Yes.
say, like,
Compassion.
okay, you know what? This is bad, you know, and like I try to be positive, for the most part. But I
Mhm.
actually, even one day, like I kind of was having this was about a year ago, I was kind of struggling with something And I had kind of made a comment like, this is just really frustrating and I don't know why this is going on. And the person actually said to me, said to me, "What's going on? Why aren't you being positive?
Oh, oh
Where are we
no.
going now that you're not being positive?" And I was like, "Excuse
Oh
me?"
geez.
So it's like suddenly they had this different view of me because I had, a
We're human.
just because I'd made some comments of my own life, right?
Yeah.
It was fine when I was like supporting them. But as soon as I was kind of expressing something, suddenly it was like, well, why, I
Yeah.
thought you're always positive. Like, well, like basically we're going to hell in a handbasket now. You're not being positive, and it's like, well, I can't be positive all the time,
No.
because
No.
rainbows and puppies don't come flying out of my butt, like
No.
we're,
100%.
we're, yeah.
And being honestly, and being positive all the time, that's toxic positivity. That's it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable, and believe it or not, it will push you into a dark soul of the night, which Kim and I will get into in the next episode. But it will push you there. It will push you to deal with your shadow self, whether you like it or not. So if you feel that you are spiritual bypassing, and honestly, that means just skidding the surface with anything you don't want to deal with, any type of triggers, any traumas, there are so many ways that you can try to avoid it. So many. I mean, I've listed some that I know off the top of my head. Maybe Kim has some others. Honestly, you could Google it, you can listen to some podcasts. All the techniques are relatively the same anyway. And they all start with the big one, which is, well, you got to be honest with yourself. You have to sit down, you have to be honest with yourself
Hmm.
against all the odds, meaning don't sugarcoat it. If you know, like I'll use myself for example, that you've got commitment issues, because that's mine, that's part of my shadow. You sit there and you be like, I have commitment issues. I run away from relationships. I run away from commitments to this, why? Why do I do it? I know why I did it. It took me some time to admit why I do it, but I know why. Of course, most likely it stems from your childhood and your adolescence, but sometimes it doesn't, because there's parts of my shadow self that I realize happened to me in my 20s, right? Not in my teens, not when I was a kid. So that's why it's important to sit there with your shadow and do the work, right? Self awareness is key, but self awareness without action is not going to heal you. It's not going to go anywhere, right? So, and I know it's scary. This stuff is scary, because you are going to realize some things about yourself, and most importantly, around the people around you that are not very copacetic, right? At this point, there's a lot of
Yeah.
people, and I do encourage it. Seek out, seek out a psychologist, a counselor that can help you work through this. You don't have to do this alone. We'll touch more upon this with the next Dark Soul of the Night episode. But you absolutely, as you work through shadow work, reach out to a therapist. Pick up those books written by psychologists that can help you through shadow work. Whatever tool at your disposal, use it. Okay, write it down if you need to. Journaling is very powerful. I've had lots of people tell me, but I'm not a writer, I don't write. But then they start and they can't stop. And they can't stop, and it goes and it goes and it goes and it goes, right? So anything to help you figure out why you're spiritually bypassing, right? Amazing technique. The other one that I did, and it's actually a big one, but you look at your core beliefs. Look at the things you believe in. And I'm not just talking about the like yourself. I'm talking about look at the things you believe in religiously, spiritually, mentally, all of it. Maybe you don't resonate with a religion anymore that you grew up in. Happened to me, happened to Kim, happens to the best of us. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, as Kim will tell you. Um, Also, look at your beliefs
It's
for
growth.
yourself. That's exactly it, right? Yeah, I was going to say experiment, explore. Look, if you find yourself, if your whole spiritual bypassing has something to do with the religious systems you were brought up with, look at the other ones. Do your research, explore them. Have fun with it. Have fun with it. See what resonates and clicks with you. Okay. You might surprise yourself, right? The same thing with looking at your beliefs with yourself. My God, the amount of times and don't deny this, people listening, because I know, okay, don't deny it. The amount of times that you think in your head, I can't do this. I can't handle this. No, I can't do this. This is not, I won't do, I can't. First of all, there's no such thing as can't. There's wills or won'ts, right? So remember that. Honestly, I can't do it.
Mhm.
I can't do it. I can't do it. It's not something I can handle. I'm not ready to do it. Okay. If that is a belief of yours, and I know that it is for many people, almost everybody, we have that belief with a certain area in our life. So what we have to do is we have to rework it and know that we can face anything and we can handle anything. And everything that wraps it around ourselves, we can work through. Whether it's positive, whether it's negative. Okay. We can work through it. It's basically like it's kind of like coming into your power, right? But it does involve shadow work. So you really can't or stop spiritual bypassing without shadow work. I'll be honest with you, you can't. Okay. Another one, a big one. Please, and I know Kim will have something probably to say to this, but please embrace your emotions. Please feel what you feel. Feel that grief, feel that anger, feel that joy, feel it. Don't feel it for 2 minutes and then I'm done. This is good. This is not good. 9 times out of 10, that is not good. Okay? You've got to feel it. You have to grieve. And if your grief for something takes days, great. If it takes nights, fantastic. If it only takes you a few hours, fantastic as well. But you've got to feel your emotions because we're
And
humans
it's
and we're
not
living.
linear,
Exactly. It's not linear. I just had that
and
discussion with
it'll
somebody
keep
today.
coming
It's
back.
funny.
It will keep coming back,
That's right. And you don't want that.
you
That's why you
know?
got to work through it, right? Don't
Yeah,
want it
and
to come
that's
back.
where, again,
Go ahead, go.
like, you need to look at yourself, you need to experience it. And you have to be graceful with yourself. You have to
Yes.
understand you're not alone. Other people grieve. You are not
Mhm.
unique. So
Yeah.
you are not going to somehow go through the perfect little chart of they say how grief works, because that's not how it works at all. Like, it does, you go maybe through those things, but you certainly don't go through it at certain,
Stages.
it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, now I passed this part, I'm going to be here. That doesn't happen. And
No.
so know that. Don't put those expectations on yourself of something that is completely, like, it's not attainable.
It's not. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You have to accept it. You've got to accept the grief, the fear, the anxiety, all of that and work through it and know that like Kim said, you're not the only one, okay? And you know what, in that moment in time, and when you're having those palpitations in your chest, when you're feeling that anxiety, you might feel like you're the only one on the planet that is going through this. That's okay. Just don't skid over it. The worst thing that you can do, okay? You've got to accept these emotions as part of the human experience. And the fact that here's the thing, guys. If you accept these emotions and you work through them however way that you want, you will. You will work through these traumas. You will work through these traumas, okay? And that is not saying that that's the only way to work through them. Kim and I are very big on if reaching out to doctors, to medical staff, to therapists, to psychologists, to people that will help you also work through this, okay? Because they are trained to help you, designed in a way to help you work through these things. So if you have these tools at your disposal, use them. Okay. Even if you think you're spiritual bypassing something so teeny tiny, like I thought that me spiritually bypassing my commitment issues was nothing until I realized how it bled into every single part of my life, not just in my, romantic relationships, but my friendships, my career, myself. And that was a big one. When I realized my commitment issues, how they hit myself, that was an eye opener. But this is what you do through it. And then you stop yourself from these things repeating in such a detrimental way, right? And that leads to the last thing that you can do to help avoid it is talk. Talk to somebody. Just let it out to whoever you need, your friend, your spouse, your therapist if you've got one, chat GPT if you need to. Some people swear by that. That's fine too. But let it out. Seriously, spew it out. Spew it out. And it's okay if you're repeating it 1,000 times. And it's okay if you can't let it go for 7 days in a row and you just repeat the same thing to your best friend 7 days in a row. Okay? It's totally okay. Allow yourself that space. It's so important to allow yourself that space. Otherwise, you are absolutely going to keep bypassing all these emotions and all these spiritual elements, and you're not going to feel any better. They will show up in repeated cycles in your life through people, through situations, because you didn't deal with the core issue, right?
I actually have recently there and I know she said it a few times, but there's somebody that I spend time with. She was telling me at her work, um, or whatever, like it happens to be her work, but it's kind of a good idea with this thing. Um, if somebody's having issues or like concerns or troubles with something,
Right. Right.
they kind of have a set email chain, right? Like of certain people, and they'll put in the subject line just verbal diarrhea. And then they will
Oh.
go and they will like just put everything all out, and you don't have to read it. So whoever gets it doesn't have to read it,
Mhm.
right? But they've got it out and they can just say, okay, I got your email. I support you.
Yeah, I like that.
You're strong and you can do that. You're strong, you can do this. You're not alone. And just give some sort of
Yeah.
support. You've got it out. They don't necessarily read it. And then it just, it kind of giving a warning like, okay, I'm not asking for advice. I'm not asking for anything else, but here it is.
Mhm.
And I just thought that's a really good idea, that
Mhm.
that people can do this and
I
then
like
that
that.
way they're heard.
That's I love that. That's such a beautiful example because that's it. That's the support. That's talking. Even if you just got that support for a moment, right? It helps you connect to the fact that you are not alone, that there's so many people out there that either agree with you, have went through something similar, or will just listen. And tiny little things like that is, believe it or not, what will help you through these experiences, right? Absolutely. Um, Another, like one of the very last things to do is, I mean, if you feel yourself, and this is more in a spiritual sense, you are, you've got that anxiety, you've got that fear, and you find yourself addicted to certain things. I mean, a lot addicted to tarot, addicted to medium readings, whatever it is. If you find yourself more addicted to the spiritual sense, but you don't feel yourself getting better, that is usually when we need to take a step back. Okay. So another way that you can avoid spiritual bypassing is, don't be so self-reliant on spiritual tools. Now, the reason I say that, and I know I'm a tarot reader and whatnot, is because I see it all the time. I see people clinging to tarot readings, mediumship, all that kind of stuff to get the answers all the time with what they want. It's the need within them to get the answers. I'll get the answers, I'll feel better. I know I'll feel better. I'll feel better. I'll get the answers. I know I'll feel better. It's right. It's gonna feel better. I'm gonna feel 100% better once I get the answers. Once Nikki tells me this, once Kim connects with this, I'm going to feel 100% better. Until you don't. Until what you see in front of you shows you opposite of what you've gotten from me and Kim. And then, you see what I mean? So when we're going through very intense feelings or dark souls of the night like this, I do tend to tell people to kind of watch what you are kind of absorbing, right? Don't look for ways to spiritual bypass when it comes to tools, because we're all guilty of doing that from one time or another. I have even myself spiritual bypassed by clinging onto tarot readings at one point in my life, like a decade or so ago. It happens to the best of us, right? So, and it really comes down to just self awareness and all that kind of jazz, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
it.
We're going to wrap up this episode because we're definitely having some technical difficulties again on our end. But I do have a question for Kim. It's
Okay.
specifically for Kim, actually, this time, not like the last one, was where I thought it was for Kim, but it was for both of us. This one is specifically for Kim, and it's just from one of my clients who jumped on a live a while ago that Kim did on TikTok, where she connected to somebody's, I believe it was grandmother. They want to know, Kim, have you ever had interesting stories connecting to somebody from the past that you didn't expect?
Um, do you mean when I'm doing for someone else
Yes.
or
They mean if you're doing for somebody else.
um well, there certainly are things that have quite come th- have come through. Uh I know that this story actually this just happened this weekend. Something quite interesting and that I thought was kind of neat. So I did some platform, like a platform thing this weekend, and Spirit came through and it was a mother who was coming through. And when she came through, she told me that, like, I knew because I don't hear and see and stuff, whatever. So, but we won't get into that. But I knew, I said, okay, so this woman comes through. She feels like a mother. And she's talking about it's either your birthday has just came or her birthday's just passed, or, it's just
Mhm.
coming up, like it's right around. And so I had two people like say, okay. And I said, okay, so there's a birthday. It's either yours or your mom's who's crossed over. So like I had those two people. Then I said, there's also, she wants me to make it very clear, there's a question about your birth date. And
Wow.
the lady, and they said, so you would understand this, that this is a question about the birthday. And the lady that it belonged to said, yes, I do know her. And I do know that at um, quite like she was in her late 50s when she actually found out she was adopted. She didn't know
Wow.
at that point.
Wow.
So there, when she found out about it, this was probably, I wouldn't say like maybe 15 years ago or so, when
Mhm.
she found out. And she found out she was adopted, and also found out that the birthday that she's been celebrating isn't really the date she was born. It was just a date that they kind of assigned to her. So that's what she has been using, right?
Mhm.
So there is that story. So we got that going on, and then I felt very strongly from this mother. I said, and this woman coming through is because both her biological and her adopted mother have passed away. I said, this here is your adopted mother. She wants you to know that.
Wow.
Then he said to me, this woman says to me, or makes me feel. I said, so she's very strongly showing me that she did not want to give you up. This was not her wish or anything. And she's making me aware that she wrote a letter to you. And we're talking like late 40s, early 50s.
Right,
That
right,
this,
right.
and I said, she makes me feel that she wrote a letter specifically for you. So you would know that you were loved. You were not just abandoned. She wanted to keep with you,
Mhm.
wanted you to stay, but it just wasn't allowed because she was, back then women didn't have babies. You couldn't even adopt a baby if you were a single mom. You couldn't even have a mortgage for Pete's sake. So
Right,
if
right,
you're
right,
a
right.
woman, right? So she's telling me that she wrote a letter, and that somewhere there's this letter that is telling you that she loves you. She wasn't giving up on you. And then she went on to basically say, like her life after that, like I didn't even feel like she had children, any more children or anything, because she gave up the child who made her
Mhm.
a mother.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so the next day, the people who kind of belonged to this message, they said to me, thank you so much for that message. It was really, really important because this was the first time that biological mother has ever come through. And we have a letter at home. We have a
Oh my
letter at
god.
home that we were given of her saying, I want her to go to a good home. I want her to
Oh,
make sure she has a good family, and
yeah.
all that. So it was just, it was, it was so validating, right? There's no way I could have ever known that any of this existed, right? And
No.
for them to come and
That's
tell me this the next
crazy.
day, like, and so, and when I was actually, so this woman obviously had to work through some
Yeah.
severe emotions over the last how many different years since she found out,
Yeah.
and because her adoptive mom wouldn't admit to it, right?
Okay.
Um, and then she found out that her adoptive mom or her birth mom was passed away. Like, so she's had so many emotions.
Wow.
Well, this woman coming through was the first time. And this poor lady was crying because she was just feeling so like it was like a validation. Like I was telling her,
Yes.
the stuff she
Exactly.
wanted to hear. And her mom was saying to her, I didn't get to be with you, and when I love our grandchildren. I love your great or my great grandchildren, your grandchildren. Um, and you'll know, like, when they're younger, they'll refer to ma'am. That's me. I'm playing with them because I didn't have the chance to play with you. So I
Oh,
am with your children, and they're even more extra special to me because they're an extension of you.
oh, I
And I
love
love you,
that.
and I've never stopped. So, like, that was just an amazing feeling to be able to
Mhm.
have given
I
somebody that
imagine.
kind of, like, just to go into them. So, if that's an interesting story, I really thought it was kind of cool.
That's
Um,
an interesting one. I think that's what they're
you know,
looking for.
yeah.
I think that's what that question meant. I think that's what they were looking for. I think that's a remarkable story. Um, and those are the stories people like to hear, especially when they're nervous about scheduling a session with the medium, especially if they're not sure, they're
Mhm,
unaware. Those type of stories help them realize, my God, like all this good could come from it, right?
mhm. And there's
Right.
no way I could have known any of that.
No, no, no
None.
way.
No
Yeah.
way. So to actually have them come back and say, like, we actually have a letter at home. We have that letter at home,
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I think that's
you
phenomenal.
know?
Yeah.
And most of records were gone because I believe that the agency or whatever that it went through, I believe it burned down or something.
Oh,
So yeah, like, for them to be able to have something, how whatever they had, that they got this
remarkable. Yeah.
letter, it was
Yeah.
pretty, a lot of things had to line up. But
Yeah.
so she was able to get validation from a letter. Like, a letter could be a letter and you could still question, just right? Like, you hear, just
Yeah.
like people get readings, they want to feel better, right? And
Yeah.
then, okay, I got it. And then you're good until you're not, right? So
Yeah.
you're going to be spiraling. Like, I might have this letter, but I'm not hearing it from anybody.
Yeah.
You don't have
Exactly.
it. It's not making it real. So for me to come through and, um, this woman has, like, her spouse is actually also, like, can speak to spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, like, why didn't you bring her through? Why did Kim bring her through? And very, purely he said, because I know everything. Like, I know everything that you know. So to
Mm-hmm.
have someone completely separate, that's how it's going to have the most impact.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to just be like, oh, is he just remembering this? Is he just making up? No, like, this is somebody
Yeah.
else has no connection to it whatsoever and bringing you through this information,
Yeah. See,
So
that's
I,
amazing. That's amazing.
mhm,
I'm glad that you shared that. I think that's what they wanted to know. They wanted to know that sometimes, you get the most amazing type of heartfelt messages from there. And it's
mhm.
worth exploring. It's worth looking into, right? To feel that connection again, because you don't know, right?
No, it's extremely healing.
Yeah.
And just like, I've think I've alluded to before, or I've talked about before, I've given a reading, like, where you know, I kind of stopped and went, I have to tell you something. And
Mhm.
I said it to the person, they broke
Mhm.
down.
Mhm. I
And
believe it.
then I think it, and then the next, as I was leaving, or, after it was done, they were like, those were the last words they said to me,
Yeah, I believe it.
and it was like, whew, like, that hits you, right? So that's why I do it. I'm not here, I would never ever try to scam anybody. I know a lot of people,
Uh,
people have all these issues with people, but, the things, like, even if I was a skeptic and doing this,
mhm.
um, there is no way I could read the information off of anybody. I could read the
Yeah.
information off the internet.
No, no, that's not
There's no,
something people share.
no,
There was no way you could have known about that letter. There wasn't.
yeah, yeah. Or
Oh, I
that
love that.
its last words, right? Like,
Thank
that's
you for
just,
sharing that. I like
yeah.
that. I
So,
think that was such a good story. I like it.
and that's where I believe tears are the seeds to healing,
That's
because
right.
then you cry. And this lady, I don't think I've ever seen her cry
Oh, and she
in
did.
all the years I've known her. And she was crying. They even said, "You made her cry." I'm like, yeah, I was kind of shocked about that.
Oh,
Because it
you
hit her.
see?
Like, it hit her.
Yeah.
Like, it was what she needed to hear. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's very lovely.
Yeah. That was a good answer. I like that. Thank you, Kim.
Yeah.
Thank you for and thank you for going to detail because you didn't have to go into that much detail. And I appreciate it, and I'm sure our listeners appreciate it because they like knowing, it's not just surface level when you do this stuff. It's not
Mhm.
just, oh, hi, I'm doing well. Don't worry about me. I am at peace on this side. It can get very very detailed. So I do appreciate that you did that. Um,
Well, there absolutely has to be, like, if you're getting a medium, someone's doing, you got to make sure that it's an evidential reading, like
yeah,
evidential mediumship. It, at, like, you need to have them give you something that no one else could know, could get. And, that is the key,
yeah,
right? Because so many
you're
people
right.
just think you're here to, take advantage of them or whatever. And I can promise you I'm not. I got better things to do with my life. We've talked about this before.
Yeah,
Um, I'm
yeah,
just
right.
incredibly grateful that I have been given this opportunity to give people this start to
Yeah.
healing, or start to just validation, or
Yeah.
just to feel good about themselves.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it's all about. All right, guys. So unfortunately, we've got to end this episode. We hope you guys enjoyed it. We're gonna apologize if there's any weird editing because the technical difficulties that we endured don't even make sense anymore to Kim or me. Okay, or me, and I'm the
No,
tech savvy one. Doesn't make sense. Okay, um,
no.
but we are excited for next week's episode. It is Dark Soul of the Night. You're gonna learn all about it. Chances are a lot of you went through it. Maybe Kim and I will tell
A
a
few
couple of our
times.
yeah, maybe Kim and I will tell a couple of our Dark Soul of the Night stories because, it doesn't start, you don't just get one. Once you get one, you get more. But it's
Mhm.
going to be a very, very interesting episode indeed. So thank you guys so much for listening and bearing through this mess with us. Hopefully, I can clean it up very nicely, of course. And we appreciate you guys way more than you know. Like, honestly, way
Right.
more than you guys know.
Thank you. And thank you so much for, interacting. And please, YouTube, Spotify, like, share,
All of that.
subscribe. Put your little put the on YouTube, put the little bell on it,
Bell.
and then you'll get reminded when it comes through. I think you can do that for Spotify too. So
Yep.
do it. Just put those all on, get them all ready to go, and it'll come
Yep.
up, and watch them, and let us know how you feel. Like, let us know, interact
Absolutely.
with us, please, because we want to
Yep.
know if we're bringing the content that you want to hear.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, guys, thank you so much. We hope you have a good night, a good day, whatever you're listening to this, and we will see you next week. Okay?
See
Bye.
ya.